Yeah, so I went up to meet Kevin up in his clinic in Tallaght. Very, very nice guy, very, very relaxed. He relaxed me anyway. I wasn't too relaxed going up to it. At the beginning, we just spoke. I wanted to kind of talk to him about what happened during lockdown. You know, him being a physiotherapist and being heavily involved with a lot of teams. Just how they got on, what they did during lockdown, and with the opening of his clinic. So you can see where the interview kind of progresses from there about the matches starting back up. Hi everybody, I'm up in Tallaght here today, and I'm at Kevin Feely's athletic therapy clinic. Kevin, I'd say you were very relieved to swing open those doors a few weeks ago to get back into action here.
Yeah, relieved is a great word for it. Geez, it felt like lockdown was going on forever there for a while. I was able to keep things ticking over a little bit. I had to shut down the clinic initially, but I was kind of keeping going with video consultations, online stuff for a little while. But it was only about a third of what I would have been doing if I had the clinic open. So it was definitely a relief to get out of the house and get the clinic up and running again. And in fairness, since it's opened up and since all the sport has come back, it's been fairly busy since then. So it's great to be able to kind of get back to the point where it was before lockdown. So definitely a relief, all right.
Good stuff. I suppose at the beginning of lockdown, when everything shut down, a lot of people were wondering what would the GA players be doing to keep sharp. So what did yourself and the lads get up to? Like, how did you keep in shape?
Yeah, that was we were all a bit worried about what was going to happen with that, and because early on in lockdown it was still really uncertain. Like, there was no fixtures, you didn't know when the GA was potentially coming back, so our strength and conditioning coach Ross Dunphy and our Mark Scanlon, they would have kind of designed programs for us to be doing, so all throughout April and May, all throughout kind of the end of March and April, we would have had a program to be doing, say 2 gym sessions and 3 running sessions, either on your own or in small groups. I can't remember whether we were down in small groups at the time, but so we were able to keep ticking over that way, and probably were training and exercising more than ever at that point, because very few of us had our normal jobs as well, so we had plenty more time to dedicate to it. But then in May, when we kind of got word that there wasn't going to be championship for until possibly the winter, and they told us to just relax and kind of treat May as an off season as such, because we'll obviously potentially be missing out on November and December as off season. So yeah. I think they said we'll just treat May as a time to kind of do your own thing if you need. So yeah, in May we were just doing whatever you wanted, tipping away a bit of running yourself if you needed to, but there was no pressure. And then when we found out the club was starting back in July, they got back in touch with us again in June, and we were back on programs again throughout all of June until the club started training back again. I think it was the first week of July, really, was it, that the clubs went back training. So we were kind of fairly well managed and looked after in that regard throughout lockdown, and there was very few weeks or months where we were idle or anything like that. So
very good.
Yeah, we were fairly well looked after.
I suppose it kind of coupled with they opened the clinic as well. Suddenly football started back up again. So how would training have been different? I presume a few things would have changed in a Thai training.
Yeah, well, there's different protocols that have to be kind of adhered to or whatever. So the dressing rooms are closed, so you're right togged. You can only use your own water bottle. Have to wear gloves at every training session. I remember the first couple of weeks were all non-contact sessions as well, so you could only do football drills, running, and shadowing drills where you're not actually making contact with people and stuff like that. Then after the first couple of weeks, once the contact came back into it, it kind of seemed to seamlessly go back into normal training sessions again. So and literally the only difference was the hand sanitizing before the session, no dressing rooms, and bringing your own water bottle and gloves, and after that it was fairly normal. Like, there wasn't too much different about it.
Yeah.
And in fairness, I'd say the temptation with a lot of clubs would have been to flog the life out of the players when they came back after lockdown, but they were fairly good in the Thai about kind of gradually building it up. And obviously from my own perspective, from the physio side of things, it would have been a bit of a disaster if they flogged everyone and we had 7 or 8 injuries early on. So it was great that didn't happen, and kind of the injuries have been fairly well controlled, and we've had a nice gradual build up back into the games since they started up last week or a couple of weeks ago.
Very good. Yeah, I could see. I could actually see him when I think the Independent had a picture of a Thai with all the jerseys laid on the grass.
Yeah.
So the players were picking up the jerseys as they went out.
That's right. Yeah.
I was actually, when I was over in Naas covering the Castledermot Naas match, when I got there, I remember I was trying to pick out get a good idea who the lineup was.
Yeah.
And I saw David Keaton wearing number 25 or 6, and I knew he wasn't wearing it. He wasn't so I knew I was in bother there.
Yeah.
I suppose then just one kind of small thing. David is captain of Kildare this year.
Yes.
That must be a huge boost to everybody in Athy as well, to have a local man like that captain Kildare.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Geez, we were so proud of it. Like, and the whole club was delighted to hear that. Like, funny enough, it was like a couple of people outside of Kildare kind of were surprised or whatever, but within the camp, you know, Dave Hyde and Mick O'Grady were very much the kind of two obvious choices.
Mick is vice captain,
and like when we were kind of not surprised at all, we were thought like that was a kind of the natural kind of progression of things. Like, Dyler had been an unbelievable captain for the last few years, but it was probably time for a kind of someone a bit younger to come in and step up, and Hyde always had the leadership qualities ever since he joined the panel. I think he's been on a senior panel since he was 19 years old and has plenty of experience, has probably almost never missed a match since he made his debut as well. So definitely a real leader for both club and county, so we're really proud of him.
Brilliant, yeah, he was phenomenal last year.
Yeah,
he was absolutely fantastic. I suppose you talked there about getting back into the swing of things. The GA made the decision to run off these club matches over a few months before the inter-county scene starts back up. I know Cavan is next up on the league campaign after it was abruptly stopped. So were you happy enough with that decision, or would you prefer to get back in and get the Kildare League campaign going?
No, I think they had to definitely prioritise the club initially. I think it was definitely the right decision to try and get that done. It was tough to see how all the different counties were going to manage to fit in a league and a championship, or whether they were going to play a league and a championship. And to be fair, compared to some of the stories you're hearing from other counties, Kildare seemed to manage it really, really well. It looks like we're still getting, plenty of opportunity in the championship with our group games. If it's not straight knockout, we're still getting plenty of football. And we had our kind of 2 league games to help prepare us for it. And then, please God, when the championship is finished and the inter-county starts back up again, lads who aren't involved in inter-county will still have league games to finish. And so they're probably actually not missing out. So overall, they're probably only missing out on 3 or 4 games compared to a normal season. And they probably couldn't ask for better than that. So I think they were dead right to try and prioritise the club season. And to be fair, since they said that, we haven't really given a second thought to the county yet, because we know that the club championship is coming thick and fast, and that has to be our only focus for the next few weeks. So the time will come to focus on the inter-county campaign, but I think for now the club has to be the main priority. Yeah,
I suppose the format of the Kildare Championship really is, it's something that could easily be used as a template for the GA going forward. I know there's a lot of nostalgia attached with the Leinster Championship. I remember going 98, 2000, those big wins. It would be great for Kildare to win the Leinster again, but if they were to look at another format, that league campaign, that kind of mini league format that they use is fantastic. I suppose moving on then, you had a difficult first week of the league, coming back against Sarsfields, but you bounced back very well against Larry. So I suppose getting that win on your belt, especially coming in the championship, was very important.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, those 2 games gave us an opportunity to kind of try a number of different players, different positions, kind of finalise a strongest 15, if you like, for our championship. So really beneficial that way. Sarsfield's game was a tough game, in fairness. It was probably score for score first half time, only a point in it, but then the sending off, and then you've seen the kind of advantage of that black card rule. Then we got a black card within a minute of sending off, so we were down to 10 or 13 men for 10 minutes, and Sarsfields absolutely took advantage of that and lived with them for the next 10-15 minutes. So that was game over then, but a real harsh kind of lesson for us on discipline, which is kind of let us down in the past in championship games. So maybe it was better that we got that stuff out of the way in the league before the championship, and we hopefully learned our lesson coming into it. But yeah, nice to bounce back then against Lancers with a good win against the local rivals. No different to what's coming up on Monday. I'd say it'll be a very similar intensity and atmosphere, because whenever we go to Larry's, it's always an absolute battle. So we've come out on the wrong side of them battles before, so it was brilliant to get a result the last day. Yeah,
I suppose that local derby, is something that people in Castledermot, it's the one fixture that we do look out for.
Yeah.
Any kind of South Kildare derby, and the fact that football has been going so well in South Kildare in the last number of years, it's definitely something to push it. Castledermot are playing Castledermot Monday night, 6 o'clock in Newbridge. Castledermot are coming up from Division 1 from last year, but they haven't played senior football for a number of years. You've been drawn against them a few times.
Yeah.
So Castledermot, you guys are overwhelming favourites in the bookies actually.
Okay.
16-1 on in Paddy Power.
Okay, they're not taking into account the local derby.
Exactly, not taking into account. Castledermot last year were very heavy underdogs against Naas as well, and they shot Naas up in Newbridge. So what are your thoughts on Damien Hendy's side before you meet them on Monday night?
Yeah, well, sure, we would have seen a lot of them last year in the championship and how well they went. Not hugely surprising to us, having played against them in previous championship games. We've always, struggled, I suppose, or the game has always turned into a dog fight, which is kind of natural enough for a local derby like South Kildare derby like that. I think Castledermot have great mobility in around the middle age as well, great kind of pace there as well. So extremely kind of tricky opposition. But I think outside of all the football side of things, whenever we play Castledermot, it just always comes down to the fact that it's an absolute battle. Like, we played league matches out in Castledermot, where it's been incredibly difficult. I remember one a few years back, we came out on the wrong side of it, I think by a point, or it might have been a draw, but it was an ugly game, and it probably will be an ugly game on Monday as well, and we're not expecting anything different. And that's not to say it'll be a bad game, it just means that the intensity both teams are going to bring to it means it's going to be scrappy, it's going to be a battle, there's going to be hits in it, and we just have to see can we come out on the right side of it. But we're under no illusions as to the kind of challenge that will face us now when we play Castledermot. So we were lucky to actually get a similar fixture against Lawrence's to kind of help prepare us for that, because I think it'll be a very similar side of game. But yeah, we know how tough a battle it's going to be.
And I suppose there are a few lads that stand out in Castledermot that you would keep an eye on every year. So who do you think now would be keeping your eye on?
Yeah, well, we would have had, Emma Keefe was in with the seniors at the start of the year. Probably very unlucky to have been let go when he was let go, because he was moving very well all throughout pre-season. So we'd obviously be keeping an eye on himself. Midfield's always been an absolute war zone against Castledermot. Gavin Farron in there, often David Keaton playing their midfield as well. So they have an awful lot of danger men, and then Dave's brother Gavin, obviously very accurate forward as well to have up there. So nearly all the players know each other in Castledermot and Athy, so I'm sure there won't be too many surprises in terms of who's playing where. We just have to make sure we get the matchups right. Otherwise, as I said earlier, Castledermot can definitely do plenty of damage if the matchups aren't right.
Yeah, I suppose a big feature Monday night as well would be these new rules that have been implemented this season. We got to see a couple of O'Byrne Cup games and a couple of league games, and you kind of go, you kind of forget until the first whistle is blown, when the first mark, the offensive mark especially, is taken.
Yeah.
How do you feel everybody's adapted to those new rules being implemented?
I don't think we've fully adapted just yet. I think probably 2 games isn't long enough to fully got to the grips of it. The offensive mark in particular, I've seen a lot of the time. I was under the impression the ref wasn't meant to blow the whistle unless it was signalled.
Put their hand up.
Put their hand up, where you see a lot of time, as soon as it's caught, the ref is blowing the whistle, and then the guy who's caught isn't sure, does that mean I have to stop now or not? And you're seeing marks being taken like out on the sideline, just inside the 45, 55 metres from goal, that aren't really of any benefit to anyone. Like, they must be better off playing on. So I think players need to get used to where the right area is to actually take the mark. But we have got a couple of good scores off it when it's gone into the right area. So I think it's a useful rule, but I do think the policing of it and the refereeing of it has to be kind of tidied up a little bit, because I think some refs aren't blowing the whistle and some of them are blowing the whistle straight away, and it can get a little bit confusing for forwards and backs, but probably more frustrating for the backs than anyone else, because I think they have to, as soon as the whistle goes, they have to back off. And they're not allowed to tackle the player for the first 4 steps either, so that can be...
I was talking to somebody that was at a match down in Cork last weekend, and there was a lot of confusion and actually, man said anger, because the corner forward won the ball. And I think the rule is, unless he actually claims to mark, that he is allowed to be tackled inside the 13 metre line, but outside the 13 metre line he can't be touched. Yeah. And I think the corner forward got the ball, and he wasn't sure what to do, but the referee gave the free, a tap over free, and they won the game by a point. And the flip side of that was, the game was level going into injury time, and everybody wanted to see the ball go in. The corner forward getting the ball, having to work for it, try to play it out and build up a score. But they launched it in. The big guy caught the ball and tapped it over. So, do you think that would have any big effect on, especially when it comes to Leinster All Ireland campaigns?
Potentially, yeah. But I think if they get the kind of refereeing of it tidied up, I don't think there'll be as many complaints as or anger as there might have been in that occasion. So hopefully, with a bit of practice now in the run up to, like, hopefully these 3 group games will give referees plenty of opportunity to kind of tidy that up, and then coming into the knockout games it won't be as big of an issue, hopefully.
Yeah, speaking of knockout and later stages, you've developed a fairly tasty rivalry with Moorfield over the last couple of years, and it's been 9 years since the trophy's been outside of Newbridge, and of course that went to a tie.
Yeah.
So you'd be looking to kick on this year and take that trophy back out of Newbridge.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal every year, is to try and win the championship. But I think this year, more so than any other years, it's kind of the time is right for a bit of change. Like, you know, not necessarily from a tie, obviously we hope that is the case, but just with everything that's happened this year, preparations are going to be totally different to what they have been in previous years. And teams will peak at different times than possibly than they would have done in previous years as well. So I think it'll be a very interesting championship. Obviously, Sarsfields and Moorfields are going to be the people that we're trying to kind of knock off the pedestals. But I suppose that's a long way down the line for us at the moment. You know, we still have 3 group games to play. 2 of them against, like I said, South Kildare rivals, and then Clane apparently have a very strong underage coming through. That's really improving their senior team. So very hard for anyone to really look past their groups at the moment, especially when you look at some of the other groups, Sarsfields and Johnson Grays and other groups as well. Some very strong groups there as well. So although they're definitely, you know, in our mind's eye, we're thinking about the Moorfields, Sarsfields, Selvages of the world. It'd be pointless to be looking past our group at this stage with 3 big games coming up.
Exactly. I suppose just to finish off, a lot of people in Castledermot would have remembered you. I know I was talking to a couple of Castlevilla lads recently. Bohemians made a visit down to play Castlevilla years ago, and you were captain. It was just before you went over.
That's right,
for a stint in professional football with Charlton and Newport. And a lot of people would remember that about you and how big soccer was in your life. Would you? The KDFL is kicking off this weekend. Would you still keep an eye on the KDFL season?
A bit of an eye, yeah. Just obviously being in and around the tie, you'd be keeping an eye on the local clubs in a tie town in Clonmullion, and if there's big games going on, especially the cup games, Lumsden and cup games and stuff like that, we tend to try and get out to those games. So even last year I would have been out to a couple of the Clonmullion matches, the 2 cup finals and stuff like that, and jumped on the bandwagon a little bit of celebrating with them, which was great crack. But even, you know, I have a bit of a connection with Clonmullion with the physio side of things, where you know, if they have any injuries, I tend to kind of link up with them in terms of rehabbing their injuries and stuff like that. So in that way I kind of follow it a little bit, but probably not as much as I would have used to do. The love for soccer has probably gone down a small bit compared to what it used to be. But no, if there's people I know playing in matches, or if there's a big game, I do try my best to get out to those games as much as I can.
Good stuff. Kevin, that's all for me. I just want to tell you thanks very much for taking the time to meet me today. It's very appreciated.
No problem.
And I hope everybody enjoyed the interview. Thanks Kevin.
Very much. Thanks, Ace.
Big thanks to Kevin Fillier there for taking the time out of his busy schedule to meet up with me during the week for a quick conversation. I just listened to the end of the interview there, just reminded me that myself and Kevin had a bit of a laugh at the end. I never wished him best of luck for Monday night. It was just when I'd stopped recording, I said, I probably should have wished you best of luck for Monday night, but I wouldn't have been sincere anyway. I don't wish them. I don't wish them any luck at all. Come on, Castledermot. It was a really good interview. It was a great experience actually to do something like that. I'd never done anything like that before, face to face. But I was lucky I got somebody like Kevin. He was 100%. He was absolutely bang on. I really liked his insights actually about jumping onto the Clonmullion bandwagon over in a tie and getting to know the lads, like, I know how well they were doing last year. But I suppose the best part of it was when I asked him about David Hyland becoming Kildare captain, and he was just saying how unsurprised everybody was over there, because he's had a couple of fantastic years with Kildare. He's been with Kildare for so long, and how good that is for a tie over there, having a local man as county captain. You know, it's fantastic for them. So great experience. Hope we get a few more down the line off some others.
Yeah, well done, Thomas. A brilliant interview, and thanks very much for Kevin Field for giving up his time. We really do appreciate it. There.